What's the stupidest thing someone has argued with you about? Someone started an argument claiming that if identical twins are separated at birth and raised by different families, then they're not twins anymore. Someone tried to convince me that they could run a mile in 3 minutes. After I called her out saying the fastest was 3 minutes and 43 seconds, she then argued that the fastest mile was actually 1 minute. My mother has argued with me over if we are currently arguing. My mother argued with me about the hours of operation for the retail chain I've been working at for 10 years at the time. She thought they were closed on a particular holiday. But in reality they only close on Christmas. Half days on Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve. Not that particular day. Eventually I turned to my father and told him to ignore mom and go to the store to get chips or carrots or whatever it was the party was low on. Which was the catalyst for the argument. They were open. Dad got the snacks. And I was left feeling like my mom had no idea what I do for a living. That Vatican City wasn't a country after multiple Google searches. The whole class agreeing that it was, and even a geography teacher telling him it was his response? I still don't think it is because I can have my own opinion. Whether or not Timbuktu is a real place. My kids insist I made it up. I've shown them maps and websites to prove it's real, but they still think I made it up. Someone once tried to convince me that Nicolas Cage was in the Fellowship of the Ring. I was like, do you know what the Lord of the Rings is? Elves, hobbits, Gandalf? Are you sure that you know who Nicolas Cage is? Like, are you confusing him with Viggo Mortensen? No? Quote. I told a coworker that I was taking a class in archaeology and was pretty interested in majoring in it. He insisted archaeologists dug up dinosaurs. I explained, no, that's a really common mistake. Paleontologists dig up dinosaurs. Archaeologists deal with human stuff. Dude got really defensive and doubled down, quizzing me on random dinosaurs facts that he probably didn't know either, and said I would never make it as an archaeologist if I didn't know those things. His final statement was, well, what if you're digging up a building and you find a dinosaur skull? Huh? What are you going to do then? Before walking out, like, dude, you would call someone else who knows about said dinosaur? Also, if I'm digging up a building and a fucking fossil from the Mesozoic era is there, we've dug too deep. Dude just couldn't accept he had made a mistake. I had a 30-minute argument with a roommate once because he didn't believe a canoe was a boat. Got into an argument that Mises is not the plural of moose. In high school we were playing a Jeopardy game and one of the questions was the Treaty of Versailles ended this war to end all wars. I said WW1, everybody else said WW2. It culminated when my friend asked me, to pique it, why would they call WW1 the war to end all wars if WW2 happened? I just responded with, because they didn't know WW2 was going to happen. Quote, we missed that question and the other team got it. I had a neighbor kid who argued with me about a car part one had replaced in my car twice, so I knew what I was talking about. He is a few years younger than me. So at the time I was probably 20 and he was 16 and I had just replaced the catalytic converter on my car. He insisted it was called a catalyst converter and not a catalytic converter. We argued for probably 15 minutes about it and it was infuriating how dumb he was. I even showed him proof that the part is called a catalytic converter, and when we searched it with his terminology it suggested tilde catalytic tilde instead of catalyst. He still argued and it just made me so angry. In Trivial Pursuit game I answered, USS Eisenhower, or some such in response to a question about ships. And the fool reading the questions insisted I was wrong because the card said, the USS Eisenhower. This was early in the game. I told her definite articles and conjunctions didn't matter. But she held firm. Other players, including her husband, were afraid to oppose her. I gave ridiculous made-up answers for the rest of the game. My brother's then-girlfriend argued with me that almond milk isn't a thing. I'd seen a commercial for Jack LaLanne's juicer and I mentioned how you can apparently make almond milk with it. Our conversation went like this. If you squeezed an almond, would any milk come out? Well, no. That's why you need the juicer. It doesn't work like that. But if almond milk doesn't exist, what are all these things at the grocery store purporting to be almond milk? That's almond-flavored milk. How come it's labeled as vegan? That's almond-flavored soy milk. If you squeezed a soybean, would any milk come out? Shrieks. Someone I work with said if they can't see drops of water coming from something, then it isn't wet. I got a damp cloth and asked if it was wet. No, there isn't any drops coming from it. So I wrung it out and got more water out of it. They didn't want to argue anymore. One that comes to mind is at my high school graduation. Our school photographer took a really good candid photo of this girl smiling up at the sky. I think we had just thrown our caps up there. They put it on the homepage of school website. A different girl I know swore the picture was of her, when it was clearly a picture of someone else. It was sad, funny at the same time. She said, they put this great picture of me on the website. We politely pointed out that it wasn't her. No, she was convinced it was her and wouldn't believe us. It was bizarre. I was pulled into an argument with someone that agreed with me, but just didn't like the way I said it. It had to be said his way. I almost got into fist fight with my best friend explaining the difference between a square and a rectangle. That filtering water is unnecessary and dumping all our waste into the rivers is fine because the water cycle takes care of it. I tried to tell my little brother that it was spelled sword, not sword. I even broke out the Webster's Unabridged to prove it to him. His reaction? Ha ha, your dictionary spelled it wrong. How to pronounce my last name. I've got a very uncommon last name. However, it's common for the area I'm in. You can tell who is from here and who isn't by the way they say my last name. Anyway, I had someone argue with me over how to pronounce it. Someone else never corrected them. So they thought they were right. No, we've just gotten tired of correcting people. So unless it's really important, we don't. But this person didn't believe me. That blood doesn't smell. Yes, it most certainly fucking does smell. Ever sniffed a penny? That's what blood smells like. Someone tried to argue that east was actually this direction, despite us having a literal compass. That idiot was me. He claimed that when you cut down a tree they immediately release all the carbon dioxide they have ever absorbed. Hence trees are useless at carbon sequestration. My father, in his 80s, had a heart attack and fell over in the snow. He broke his ankle and so was in the hospital for an extended period. My mother could not be convinced that he did not do this on purpose to get out of a holiday that he wasn't too keen on. He had a fucking heart attack. You can't just decide to have on just to get out of something. Someone I know didn't understand the meaning of objectively and subjectively and kept using it wrong. It was so annoying, so I corrected her, but she insisted that I was the one who was wrong. I had to actually look it up on internet and show it to her, and then she still didn't admit her wrong, but at least she stopped bitching about how wrong I supposedly was. Some kid tried to argue with me that babies came out of the butthole. I very recently had a neighbor in my flat argue with me that Donald Glover and Childish Gambino are two different people. I don't even listen to his music, and I even knew that they're both the same guy. I was watching Escape from New York. My friend got really mad that Snake Plissken was just a ripoff of Solid Snake from Metal Gear. He refused to accept the fact that Escape from New York came out like 17 years earlier and Solid Snake was inspired by Plissken. That cheese is in fact dairy and comes from a cow, despite it looking nothing like milk. I wish I was kidding. Someone refused to believe that my brother and I are not identical twins. We're fraternal twins. Their argument was that we looked the same, so we had to be identical. I tried to tell them that it wasn't something you can disagree with because it's fucking science. But they weren't having that. I watched a couple break up over whether or not a chicken could be a pet. They got into this extremely heated argument, which led to them hitting each other. Eventually both of them turned to me and asked for my opinion. I said, why couldn't a chicken be a pet? I've seen videos of people having chickens as pets. The girl got pissed off at my answer and had to go have a cigarette to calm down. After that, she refused to talk to me because I sided with him. Volatile. I work at student loans, and if you have a child under 18 and your household income is under a certain amount, you're eligible to receive a grant to help with childcare. Woman comes in and I tell her with her income she can receive said grant. She says she doesn't want it. I tell her it's a grant that she'll never have to pay back. Unlike her tuition fee and maintenance loan, she doesn't want it as her child is 13 and can handle herself. I say I understand, but explain it is offered to everybody in the threshold, so it's basically free money to help people with children. She doesn't want it. In the end, I asked her if I offered her £2,000 which she would never have to pay back if she could prove her child is dependent on her. Would she take it? She said yes, obviously. I say that's what the childcare grant is. She doesn't want it. Edit. Spelling edit too. Really didn't expect the comment to blow up like this and so many questions to be asked. I'll answer a few popular ones now. 1. £2,000 was a rough figure given her income. The grant is dependent on intensity of study, living situation including income, single parent, etc. 2. When I described it as free money, I didn't mean that the money is free as in it just appears right there for them. It's obviously taxpayers' money. I was implying that in this particular scenario for the student, it was free money. 3. A few American people have asked what the grant is called to try and receive it for their studies, but I'm in the UK. I'm sure there'll be an American equivalent of some sort that supports parents attending university, college. 4. I understand completely the pride element of not taking the money she doesn't need from the government, but I believe she genuinely wasn't all there mentally. Not that she held herself too highly to receive said grant. See, I told someone from church about a pen pal sending me foreign music. She was worried that I might be listening to sexual lyrics without realizing it, and subconsciously poisoning my mind with harmful thoughts. I disagreed. Oh, life in the Bible Belt.